I still remember that night like it happened yesterday. Midnight in the city has a certain kind of silence, one that feels heavy, almost suspicious, like the streets are holding their breath. I had just poured myself a drink, ready to watch the clock tick me closer to retirement, when the phone rang. Not the house phone, not even the regular line. No, it was the encrypted one. The kind of call that meant something had gone very, very wrong. I wasn't even supposed to be on the roster anymore, but sometimes when chaos hits, they call the ones who have been there before. And that night, Emily Parker was already gearing up. Now, let me tell you something about Emily. She wasn't your average cop, and she damn sure wasn't your average SWAT operator. She was sharp, laser sharp. The kind of sharp that cuts through fear, doubt, and hesitation. But here's the thing that made her different. She cared, not just about the mission, but about the people, the hostages, the victims, even about us, the team. She carried all of that weight on her shoulders. And somehow, she carried it with grace. So when that high-rise downtown was stormed by armed men, 35 floors of glass and steel, packed with civilians on a late shift, Emily didn't flinch. She didn't even pause. She strapped on her gear, looked at the rest of us, and gave a nod. That nod said everything. We're going in, and we're not leaving anyone behind. I rode in the van with her that night. I can still hear the low growl of the engine, the metallic rattle of gear shifting, the silence pressing down on us like a heavy fog. You could taste the tension in the air. No one spoke, not because there was nothing to say, but because words would have broken the fragile focus we were clinging to. I glanced across it. Emily. She sat there steady as stone, her rifle resting against her chest plate, her breathing calm, her eyes focused. She looked like she was meditating, but I knew better. She was running scenarios in her head, calculating, predicting, preparing. And me? I'll admit it. I was scared. You don't walk into a skyscraper filled with desperate men and innocent lives without fear. But watching Emily that night, it steadied me. If she could be calm, then damn it, so could I. When we arrived at the tower, it was like staring up at a beast. 35 stories of glass, reflecting the city lights back at us. Police tape stretched across the base. Officers scrambling, reporters pushing their cameras too close, and above it all, silence. You couldn't see the chaos inside, but you could feel it. Like static in the air. The commander briefed us quickly. Armed men had taken hostages. No confirmed number. No clear demands yet. Just panic. And with every passing minute, the danger grew. Emily looked up at the building, her jaw tight, her eyes narrowing. She whispered something, almost too low to hear. But I caught it. No matter what happens, those people come out alive. It wasn't a statement for us. It was a promise to herself. And that promise, it carried us through what came next. We breached the lobby first. The glass doors shattered under controlled charges, and the echo thundered through the night. Flashlights cut through the marble-floored entrance, sweeping across overturned furniture and scattered papers. The silence broke shouts, footsteps, the muffled cries of people being herded upstairs. Emily took point. She always did. She raised her fist, signaling us forward, her eyes scanning every shadow, every corner. I followed right behind her, covering her six, and for the first time that night, I realized something. We weren't just entering a building. We were stepping into a war zone. That was only the beginning, what we faced on those upper floors. Well, that's a story I'll never forget. We moved fast through the lower levels, clearing room after room. Each door creaked open to emptiness, desks left in a hurry, coffee cups still steaming, computer screens glowing with work abandoned mid-sentence. It was eerie, the kind of silence that makes you wonder if you're already too late. Emily was all business. Hand signals, sharp gestures, and eyes that never stopped scanning. She didn't waste breath on words when every second mattered. And then, finally, we heard it. Voices. Muffled, nervous voices drifting from an office corridor ahead. My stomach tightened. We all froze, rifles raised, listening. Emily leaned forward, peering around the corner. She held up 2 fingers, then pointed ahead. 2 armed suspects. I'll never forget how calm her hand was. Steady as if she were pointing out stars in the night sky. We moved. Fast, coordinated, precise. The suspects didn't stand a chance. One turned and raised his weapon, but Emily dropped him before he could even aim. The other tried to run. I caught him against the wall. Zip-tied, weapon kicked away, and then we saw them, the first hostages, huddled in a small office, eyes wide, trembling hands covering their mouths. 10 people, maybe 12, civilians, office workers. A woman clutching her phone like it was a lifeline. A man with blood on his forehead, probably from being struck. Emily lowered her weapon and crouched down to their level. "You're safe now," she whispered. Soft, calm, steady. And you know what? They believed her. Hell, I believed her. We moved them out under escort, down the stairwell, past the shattered lobby where the paramedics waited. And then Emily turned to me. "That's just the beginning," she said. Her voice was low, almost a growl. She was right. The 20th floor was different. Darker. The power had been cut, leaving the hallways lit only by our flashlights and the faint glow of emergency signs. Every corner felt alive, every shadow ready to strike. We advanced slowly, boots soft on the carpet, rifles up. Suddenly, a noise cracked the silence, a shout, followed by a gunshot. Adrenaline hit like a wave. We sprinted toward the sound, hearts pounding, training kicking in. The firefight erupted in a long corridor lined with glass offices. Bullets shredded drywall, and glass exploded like fireworks. I hit the floor, crawling behind a desk, my rifle barking back. The air was thick with smoke and dust, alarms wailing overhead. Through it all, Emily stayed composed. I saw her crouched behind a broken desk, eyes locked forward, timing her shots perfectly. She didn't panic. She didn't rush. Every squeeze of her trigger was deliberate. 3 men went down before I could even reload. We pushed forward, forcing the gunman back toward a conference room at the end of the hall. And that's when things got dangerous. Inside the room, through the fractured glass wall, I saw them dozens of civilians, hands on their heads, kneeling on the carpet. And in front of them stood a man with an assault rifle, pressed to a hostage's back. The shouting was deafening. Demands, threats, pleas. For a second, the whole world slowed down. My finger hovered on the trigger. The team shifted around me. And then Emily stepped forward, not recklessly, not foolishly, but with the kind of courage you only see once in your life. She lowered her weapon, just enough to show she wasn't a threat. "Talk to me," she said. Her voice carried through the chaos, steady as a rock. "You don't want this to end in blood," the man screamed back, incoherent, desperate. He pressed the rifle harder against the hostage's back. The hostage, a middle-aged man in a torn shirt, let out a sob. Emily didn't flinch. She didn't break eye contact. Step by step, she closed the distance, hands out slightly, palms open. And I'll tell you this, in that moment, she wasn't just a SWAT officer. She was something else. A negotiator, a protector, a force of nature. The standoff lasted minutes, though it felt like hours. My finger cramped on the trigger, ready to fire if Emily went down. But she never gave me the chance. With one sharp move, timed so perfectly I can't even explain it, she distracted the gunman with her words, shifted her weight forward, and in a blur, disarmed him. The rifle clattered to the ground, and she had him pinned before anyone could blink. The hostages gasped. Some cried. A woman mouthed, "Thank you." Emily stood, brushing glass from her vest. "We're not done yet," she said. And she was right. Again, that was the night I realized something about Emily Parker. She wasn't just brave. She wasn't just skilled. She was relentless. She would walk through fire if it meant saving one more life. And the higher we climbed in that tower, the hotter that fire burned. By the time we reached the 30th floor, the air itself felt heavier. The stairwell walls were scarred with bullet holes, the smell of cordite lingering like smoke after fireworks. My legs ached, sweat burned in my eyes, but adrenaline kept me moving. Emily was still out front, silent, steady, determined. I don't know how she did it. Every time I looked at her, it was like she had some hidden reservoir of strength the rest of us didn't. We paused near a locked security door. Beyond it was the top floor, the heart of the operation, the stronghold where the last and most dangerous hostiles waited with the final group of hostages. "Reach," Emily whispered. The word was quiet, but it carried the weight of a hammer striking steel. We stacked at the door, shields up front, rifles raised, adrenaline hitting like a flood. The breaching charge went off with a deafening crack, blasting the door inward in a shower of sparks and smoke. We stormed in. The top floor looked nothing like an office anymore. Desks overturned as barricades. Broken glass everywhere. Furniture piled up against windows. And in the middle of it all, a dozen hostages, surrounded by gunmen who were more desperate than ever. The firefight erupted instantly. Gunshots echoed like thunder in a storm. Muzzle flashes strobing the room in bursts of violent light. Asterisk, asterisk. I dove behind a filing cabinet, bullets shredding the metal. My ears rang, the world narrowing to tunnel vision. One of our guys went down wounded in the leg, and I dragged him back, my rifle spitting fire the whole way. Through the chaos, Emily was a blur of precision. She moved like the floor was hers, sliding from cover to cover, barking orders with a voice sharp enough to cut glass. Left flank. Push forward. Keep them pinned. Her commands weren't just orders, they were lifelines. We followed because we believed, because she made us believe. And then came the moment I'll never forget. One of the gunmen grabbed a hostage, a young woman with blonde hair, and pulled her toward the shattered window. He was shouting about helicopters, escape routes, demands no one could possibly meet. But I saw the wildness in his eyes. He didn't want to get out. He wanted to take someone with him. He smashed the glass with the butt of his rifle. Wind roared in, carrying the city's sirens and chaos from far below. The hostage screamed, her heels skidding on broken shards as he dragged her closer to the edge. I froze. My rifle lined up, but the shot was impossible. One wrong move, and she was gone. Emily didn't freeze. She sprinted. Time seemed to slow. The noise faded. All I saw was Emily Parker leaping, fearless, throwing herself between the gunman and the hostage. Her body slammed into his with bone-rattling force. The rifle clattered away, sliding across the glass floor. They fought at the edge. Fists, elbows, knees, an explosion of violence silhouetted against the night sky. And for one terrifying second, both of them teetered at the broken window's edge. My heart stopped, but Emily was stronger. She shoved him backward, twisting him into a brutal takedown that ended with him unconscious, sprawled on the floor. The hostage collapsed into our arms, sobbing, alive. Emily stood, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead, breathing hard. But her eyes were steel. "Secure the rest," she commanded, and we did. Within minutes, the remaining hostiles were down, restrained or surrendering. A gunfire faded into silence. All that remained was the sound of hostages crying, thanking us, clutching each other like survivors of a storm. Emily holstered her weapon. She didn't celebrate. She didn't smile. She just looked around at the wreckage, the shattered glass, the bodies, and the lives saved. "That's why we're here," she said quietly, almost to herself. That night, on that 30th floor, I realized Emily Parker wasn't just a warrior. She was the anchor holding us all together. She didn't just save lives. She gave us courage when ours was running out. And though the building was secure, though the hostages were free, I had a sinking feeling in my gut. We weren't out of danger yet. Because sometimes, in the shadows of victory, a darker threat waits. Asterisk, we thought it was over. The last gunman cuffed. The hostages escorted out. Our radios crackled with the words we'd been waiting for all night. Building secure. But here's the thing about nights like that. They're never really over when you think they are. Emily was the first to sense it. She didn't relax, not even for a second. While most of us let out the kind of exhausted sighs that only come after surviving hell, she kept scanning, kept searching. Her instincts were razor sharp. That's when she spotted a dot in the far corner. Hidden beneath an overturned desk was something small, something blinking red. Device! She shouted. Every muscle in my body. TENSED. It wasn't just a bomb. It was a chain of them, wired together, linked to a timer that was down to its last 2 minutes. The bastards hadn't planned to walk out alive. Their plan was to take the whole floor down with them. Hostages, cops, everyone. Panic rippled through the room. Some of the younger officers froze, wide-eyed, whispering prayers under their breath. I'll be honest, I felt the chill too. There's no training in the world that makes 2 minutes with a bomb feel normal. But Emily? She didn't flinch. She dropped to her knees, tore off her gloves, and leaned over the tangle of wires like she'd been born for this. "Clear the floor," she ordered. Her voice was steady, unshakable. "Emily," I started. "Clear the floor," she repeated, and something in her tone made it impossible to argue. We evacuated the wounded, the hostages, even the rest of our team. I stayed with her. I couldn't leave. Not after everything we'd just been through. The clock was down to 90 seconds. Emily's hands worked with surgical precision, eyes locked on the device. Red wire, blue wire, yellow coils twisting around a detonator, no bigger than my fist. She studied it, listening, feeling like the wires themselves were whispering to her. "Talk to me," I said, my throat dry. She smirked. "I've always hated puzzles." 60 seconds. She clipped the first wire. A spark jumped. My heart nearly stopped. "Still here," she muttered. Steady as stone. 0.30 seconds. Sweat dripped down her temple. Her breathing slowed, like she was forcing her body into calm. Then she spotted something, a secondary trigger, almost invisible, tucked beneath the main charge. A backup. A final cruel trick. "Of course," she whispered. 15 seconds. She reached into her vest, pulled out a tiny multi-tool, and slid it into the narrowest gap I've ever seen. Her fingers barely moved, just a fraction of an inch. Snip. The timer froze at 0:07. Silence. The whole world seemed to exhale at once. Emily sat back, tossing the disarmed trigger onto the floor like it was nothing but scrap metal. She wiped the blood and sweat from her face, and for the first time that night, she let herself smile. "You're insane," I told her. She shrugged. "Takes one to know one." When we finally walked out of that building, the sky was already turning gray. Reporters were waiting, cameras flashing, questions flying. To them, it was just another SWAT victory, another dramatic rescue. But to me, to the people who were in that building, it was the night Emily Parker became something more than just a teammate. She became a legend. And years later, even after I retired, even after the nightmares faded and the scars healed, I still remember that night every time I hear the sound of sirens in the distance. because legends aren't born on calm days. They're forged in fire, in glass, in chaos. And that night, in the high-rise, Emily Parker proved exactly why legends never die. Asterisk, asterisk.